Insurance and Autocar. My name is Rishaad and today we're going to talk about bikes, particularly the new bikes for 2020. Now let's start with a short recap. As you know, 2019 was a difficult year for the industry and almost every single big manufacturer was focusing all their energies on upgrading their fleets to BS6. Well, we're now in 2020 and we've had the chance to experience some of the fruits of these efforts. There have been a few new bikes out and there are many more to come. But that's just part of the discussion for today because aside from the BS4 to BS6 transition, there's a lot of excitement lined up for the year when we're talking about motorcycles. We're going to see a whole range of new products, right from small motorcycles to big 2500cc machines. That's basically what our chat is going to be about today. I've got a whole bunch of questions coming here from you, so we'll take them as they go and I'll try and answer them as best I can. Okay, we've got the first question coming in and it's quite a no-brainer. Does it make sense to buy a BS4 vehicle at this time? Well, the thing is, unlike the last transition from BS3 to BS4, there was a lot of chaos that time around and people in the end, in the last month or so, managed to get some amazing discounts. This time, the rules have been set far more clearly. The manufacturers have had much more time and as well as the dealers. So yes, there may be some good discounts. There are already some good discounts going on bigger bikes, but I don't think it's going to be such a crazy scene as it was last time when you're not going to get some massive discounts. Does it make sense to buy a BS4 vehicle though? Well, yes, because you're going to get a good price difference. BS4 vehicles, especially the smaller capacity vehicles, 150cc, 200 and below, they're going to be at least 10% cheaper than the BS6 alternative. So in that sense, from a pure money saving perspective, yes, BS4 makes sense. But you have to ask yourself, do you want to be more morally responsible and go for the cleaner emissions? I think you should, but that's not the only reason because every manufacturer, well, almost every manufacturer, is bringing in their BS6 products with a whole bunch of new technologies and new features. Honda, for example, with the new Activa 125 and the new Activa 6G, they've given you a BS6 engine, but they're also giving you many more features. And some of these features are actually quite nice to use. It does improve the riding experience. Another thing we'd like to talk about when we mention Honda is that their new engines are smoother. So again, it's an improvement in the riding experience. So what I would say is, unless you really have to save the money, waiting for the BS6 vehicle is the more responsible thing to do. And it actually might work out better for you as far as the ownership experience goes. Our next question comes from Santosh Lokhande. Is there any cruiser coming in the 300 to 400cc range in 2020? Well, yes. The immediate answer is the most obvious cruiser in the market, the Royal Enfield Classic 350. There's a brand new one coming this year. The Classic and the Thunderbird 350 are expected. What Royal Enfield has done is they've upgraded the current models to BS6 right now because their next generation products aren't quite ready yet. But those products are very much close to being complete and we believe Royal Enfield will have those bikes out by sometime in the middle of this year. What do you expect from those bikes? Well, they're going to be completely all new and by that we mean everything. It's going to be a new frame, new engine and I think it'll be quite a different riding experience. Going by the Interceptor 650, we expect to see a very big jump in the riding experience of these bikes. But the big question is, can they retain that Royal Enfield identity? Well, that's one of the questions I'm most keen to answer myself this year, and I think you'll have to wait till about mid-year for that. Our next question is from Josefa, who wants to know, are there any more electric two-wheelers expected this year? Well, yes, the market is being flooded with electric two-wheelers. A lot of them are coming in as Chinese products, just assembled here and sold under an Indian name. But we won't address those. We'll talk about the electric two-wheelers coming from big brands this year. The most recent one is the Chetak, which just launched a couple of days ago. It was unveiled late last year. It's a product from Bajaj, revitalizing the Chetak brand. It's a modern iteration of the Chetak, but completely electric platform. It's just been launched. It costs about 1 lakh rupees and it'll only be available in Mumbai and Pune to start. But Bajaj says that they're analyzing the market response and then they'll take a call based on where they want to sell it. They say production is not a problem for them. They can scale up production whenever they want. And the dealer network is not a problem either because Bajaj is going to sell the Chetak out of the KTM dealer network. And they have 400 plus dealers across the country. So the Chetak has no problem with the dealer network. Beyond the Chetak though, Ather is going to launch a new product at the end of this month. I believe 28th is the launch. It's going to be called the Ather 450X. Now what Ather says is that this is a more premium, faster, better range, and it will be more stylish. And I believe what Ather is going to do is they're going to give it with more color options. That is an exciting product to look forward to because so far the Ather 450 has been the most impressive two-wheeler electric vehicle that we've ridden in India. There will also be the ultraviolet F77. We rode the prototype late last year, but the production bike will go on sale at the end of this year. I believe October is their launch date. The F77 is India's first electric sports bike, and when we say first, we mean the first bike that's actually going on sale, so far that we know. The F77 is built out of Bangalore, and ultraviolet is funded by TVS. It's a very interesting motorcycle, about 200cc level of performance. You've also got the Torque T6X, which should debut this year, and I'm sure there'll be more models to look out for as well. So yes, 2020 will have more new electric two-wheelers. Suraj Pandya wants to know, are electric scooters like the Chetak with a 95-kilometer range a good buy, or should the attention be on the Ather 450? Well, honestly, Suraj, to continue our last answer, the Chetak actually promises more range than the Ather. This is what Bajaj claims. With electric vehicles, this is more or less what you're going to get with electric vehicles of this size. When you go to bigger, more powerful and faster ones, they generally have a larger battery pack, and that should give you more range. But the honest truth is that this segment is so fresh that we haven't tested anything with a very significant range. So I'm looking forward to know as much as you are. But right now, on my money, the choice comes between the Chetak and the Ather 450 as the best electric scooters you could buy in India today. The only problem is where can you buy them? Bajaj hopefully will increase the network by the end of this year, and Ather says that they'll be in 10 cities by the end of the year as well. Hopefully one of those cities will be yours. Swagat Mishra wants to know when we can expect the BS6 Duke 390. Swagat, I think you're going to get your answer very, very soon. We expect the BS6 Duke 390 and RC 390 to be out in a matter of days. KTM is going to equip upgrade their entire range to BS6 very shortly. They'll be ready for the BS6 deadline very soon, so you don't have a very long wait. Vinod Raja wants to know, are there any ABS equipped EVs other than the ultraviolet F77? Well, honestly, Vinod, no, I haven't come across any made in India EVs with ABS. The ABS regulation isn't very clear on EVs, and the people that are making EVs so far are doing them in a smaller capacity like the scooters, and they don't have a necessity to do ABS. They're generally doing CBS. We'll have to see what happens when bikes like the Torque come out and maybe the M-Flux, although there's no clarity on when that will happen. Swagat Mishra has another question. What are your views on the KTM 390 Adventure? Does the seat height concern you? Well, Swagat, I'm quite tall, so the seat height does not concern me. But yes, it is at 850 mm, which can be quite a bit for people in the Indian market. The good news is that KTM will have a low seat height option. I believe this brings it down to about 820 or 830 mm. Not too sure about that. But the thing with seat heights is the number on paper isn't the only thing that matters. You need to sit on the bike. You need to see how narrow it feels, how easily you can get your legs down, how tall the bike is, how high the center of gravity is, how you feel the weight of the motorcycle, how slim the bike is, and how heavy the bike is in general. So I'm going to be riding the 390 Adventure soon. The review will be out by the 27th of the month, if I'm not wrong. I'm very keen to find out myself. The KTM looks like an approachable motorcycle. It looks like it's fairly light and easy to manage. We'll have that answer for you soon. Okay, Rohan wants to know which two-wheelers will not be updated to meet the BS6 norms. Rohan, that's a rather broad question. I can't give you the full answer, but yes, there will be some models that won't go into BS6. More recently, Royal Enfield's 500cc bikes have been taken off their website. We don't think the 500 will go into BS6 because Royal Enfield is now going to focus on the 350s and the 650s, keeping that price cap there. Honda, for example, will not be making the Click and the Navi for India in BS6, although they will continue to export these models. Interestingly, Honda is finding the Navi is getting quite a lot of success internationally. I believe Guatemala was the country where the Navi is now the top selling model. So they may not continue here as BS6, but they will continue to be made and exported. Selvin wants to know, will servicing BS6 two-wheelers entail any more complication and cost? Well, Selvin, I don't think so because a general service should be roughly the same. It's a cleanup, oil change, air filters, spark plugs, and that really doesn't change with BS6. There is one small factor which may make a difference, and I think BS6 engines use a different grade of lubrication and oils, and that might be slightly more expensive. It's too early in the day to know, but I don't think it's something for you to worry about, and if there is a difference, it is going to be quite marginal. So don't worry about that, there shouldn't be a problem there. Anthony Derek wants to know, by when can we expect the TVS Jupiter BS6 to be launched? Well, TVS has launched a Jupiter BS6. It's the Jupiter Classic. It's a fairly expensive model. It's a little more expensive than the Activa 6G BS6 that just came out. But it's one of the variants, and TVS will launch more affordable versions of the Jupiter because the Jupiter is a very important product to them, and the positioning of that product is very important. So I see TVS doing this quite soon, especially in response to the Activa 6G. Honestly though, there's just a couple of months before the deadline for BS6, and manufacturers are going to be doing this faster and faster, and most of them will have their model lineups complete ready by BS6, so there's nothing to worry about there. Jigar Jani wants to know, do you think the 790 Duke is overpriced for the Indian market for what it has to offer? On paper, Jigar, I would agree with you, and that was my impression when I went for the launch as well. I thought it was a little too expensive, especially since we now expect KTMs to be spectacular in terms of their pricing. But the reality is that is one of the most amazing motorcycles, exciting motorcycles I rode last year. And if you look at the pricing internationally, where the 790 slots in the segment above the Japanese bikes and below the Europeans from Triumph and Ducati, that's what they're doing out here, and KTM didn't really have much of a choice because this bike is coming with not much localization for our market. They are working on improving localization, but I believe that's more for the cause of getting spare parts supply more streamlined and perhaps better, more cost effective. I don't think there'll be a huge correction in the price even when the bike does get localized, but it is going to be localized, and then KTM will follow that with a 790 Adventure, which is going to be very interesting. Will there be any new launches in the 100 to 200cc segment at the 2020 Auto Expo? That's a question from Anubhav. Anubhav, honestly, there's not going to be very much happening at the Auto Expo. There are only two mainstream manufacturers who are going to be there, that's Aprilia and Suzuki. The rest there are a few EV manufacturers, but the number is very small, and the Auto Expo is disappointing from a motorcyclist point of view. Suzuki, when not sure what to expect, it could be a new product on the 250cc platform. It could be something electric because Suzuki has been talking about an electric product that they're developing for the Indian market. Hopefully, we'll see something about that from Suzuki. And from Aprilia, we're expecting their new 160cc scooter. It's a brand new product, and they tell us it's going to be very promising. Those are the two things that we know to look out for at the Auto Expo. Amit Hadia wants to know, any idea about when the new Triumph Daytona will be launched in India? Well, Amit, the Daytona was the new Daytona, the 765, has been made in rather limited numbers internationally, and it's kind of a swan song for the model. They're not going to take this into series production. The Daytona will be succeeded by the Street Triple and those models. Effectively, that middleweight super sport segment is dying internationally, and it's moving to bikes like this, which is the Panigale V4. People are spending more on the bigger, more powerful bikes, and unfortunately, the middleweight segment is dying out. There's very few middleweights left. The R6 and the ZX6R are probably the only two ones left. So I don't think the Daytona will be coming to India at all, and if it does, very, very few numbers. At what price do you think Harley will launch its upcoming 338cc motorcycle? Akash Raj. Well, Akash, that's an interesting one because the 338cc motorcycle has been made for the Chinese market. That is the primary objective. It's being made by Benelli and it will be sold through the Benelli dealership network in China. What Harley's intentions for this motorcycle are for India? Well, that's completely unclear. The internet has made its own assumptions, but there is no real clarity on whether this bike is coming to India at all, who will sell it, and how much it will cost. We should find out more about this year. The 338cc bike is due to be launched in the middle of the year in China. So let that happen and then let's see what the prospects for our market are. But as of now, it's not clear. Anthony wants to know, are BS6 two-wheelers less fuel efficient compared to BS4 bikes? Anthony, an interesting question because BS6 two-wheelers, what we've seen is the power figures have dropped. The power and torque figures are dropping consistently across the board from multiple manufacturers. What's happening with fuel efficiency though? We just haven't had enough data to collect because we haven't had that many BS6 two-wheelers to really put through our tests and do back-to-back tests with BS4. This is an answer we're going to get in time. But to be honest with you, I don't think we're going to see that. Now, the reason why we're seeing drops in BS4 power and torque from the BS4 models is because it's a massive engineering nightmare to meet BS6 norms, and there's a lot of engineering decisions you have to take. Do you try and keep the power and torque and then add more catalyst material, which is expensive, or do you re-engineer your torque curve to come a little lower, bring down the into the lower running zone in the RPMs, which changes the way the bike feels to ride, but also may make a difference in the power and torque figures, and that's what a lot of manufacturers are doing. In fact, Honda has completely redesigned almost all their small engines, the 125, the Activa engine, the SP 125. They all looked same as far as CC goes, but if you look at the bore and stroke numbers, they're brand new engines. And the reason that Honda has done this is that they can change the torque curve and the power delivery characteristic to give you that riding experience that you would expect from a bike like that, but to meet these norms and to do so in the most cost-effective manner possible. To Honda, it's cost-effective to rebuild an entire engine. Other people are doing it without rebuilding engines. Everyone's taking their own approach, and it's really interesting to see how it pans out. But do I think that they'll be less fuel efficient? I don't, because the reason is that most very small engines, I'm talking 150cc and below, these engines have all moved from carburation to fuel injection. And what fuel injection does, it allows you to have much finer control about the fuel and delivery into the engine. So I think that with a move to fuel injection and with good mapping and with the entire R&D that these companies are doing into getting these bikes to be this efficient in terms of combustion, yes, your fuel efficiency should increase as well. Taranshu wants to know, is the Pulsar 125 a good upgrade from the 100cc Boxer I currently own? Well, yes, it definitely is. The Boxer is an absolutely low cost and basic motorcycle. It gets the job done, but it's a no frills motorcycle. The Pulsar 125 is a 125cc motorcycle with a focus on performance and that Pulsar feel good factor. It actually does quite a good job of feeling like a Pulsar, sounding like a Pulsar, and riding quite a bit like a Pulsar, except that it's not as fast as the 150s and the 180s. It depends on what you're looking for from your upgrade. Are you looking for more practicality from your motorcycle and things like load carrying ability? Well, no, probably the Boxer will do a fine job. You don't buy a Pulsar for that. But are you buying this bike to enjoy riding more and to as a more pleasurable form of transportation? Yes, I think the Pulsar 125 will be better. Yash Sagar wants to know, will Royal Enfield launch more 650cc bikes other than the Conti GT and Interceptor? Yes, I believe they absolutely will. They've invested a lot of money in this platform and the platform has been received very well. They've got to have more plans in line for the platform. Although what these bikes are is not clear at the moment. Again, the internet is all ablaze with the fact that there's a Himalayan 650 coming. But I'm not very sure about that because the Himalayan 650 will be a very heavy motorcycle. I'm not sure if Royal Enfield is going to take that decision. The Himalayan single cylinder is already nearly 200 kilos. When you put that engine in the Himalayan, it's going to go much beyond what the Conti GT and the Interceptor are. So whether Royal Enfield makes a Himalayan 650 or an all-new Himalayan sometime down the road with a single cylinder engine, that's a question that has to be answered. But as for the Conti GT and Interceptor platform, yes, there are many options. There could be a more modern version, something like the Triumph Street Twin. That's a space in the market. There's also the fact that Royal Enfield is pushing flat track racing. They've started a whole new campaign this year. They've designed a bunch of flat track bikes. And going along with that, they could launch a flat tracker for the road to carry forward that emotion of flat track racing. And I think that's something we could see. We could also see a more affordable version, something based along the bullet lines. It's not clear at the moment, but yes, there absolutely will be more models. Deep Metkar wants to know, which motorcycle am I looking forward to most at the Auto Expo? Well, Deep, I'm very keen to see what Suzuki has and Aprilia. I hear a lot of wonderful things about their scooter. Really interesting to see what they've learnt from the SR platform and what they put into this new product. But motorcycle I'm interested in seeing is what Segway has to bring at the Auto Expo. Segway is one of the exhibitors. They're famous for those scooters you see all over the world abroad, self-balancing scooters. But Segway has now gotten into motorcycles, and very recently they showed off an electric sports bike with some serious performance numbers. I think 0 to 103 seconds and 200 odd kilometers top speed. To me, that's something I'm just very interested in seeing at the Auto Expo, and I hope there are some surprises in store for us. But of what I know going to be that's going to be at the Expo, that's the one I'm keen to see. Jayesh wants to know, is Vespa planning to bring an electric scooter to India? Well, Jayesh, Vespa has evaluated the electric scooter platform for India, and they found that it's just way too expensive. They have something called the Vespa Electrica abroad. Beautiful product, but very expensive. We're talking about maybe 8-10 lakh rupees for a scooter, and honestly, you're going to have very few numbers, very few takers for something like that. So what Piaggio is doing is they're focusing on revamping the Vespa range. They will continue to offer the Vespa for sure. It's going to be a very big part of the lineup. It is a very iconic product for India, and it accounts for nearly 50% of their sales. The Vespa will definitely continue, but there's no plans for an electric model right now. All right, everyone. I've got a lot of questions here. I hope I've answered your questions as best I can. We have now run out of time. I'm going to have to close this now. But before I do, I'd like to do a small word on safety. Riding a motorcycle is great fun, but it's also a big responsibility. So please do the very best you can for yourself in terms of safety. Wear as much safety gear as you can every time you're on two wheels. At least a jacket, gloves, and a good quality helmet. And finally, please make sure you follow the rules of the road. Stay safe out there and have a good time.